Hi, everyone. Welcome to Konveyor Meetup. I'm Jonathan Racinos, and today we have Andrea from Red Hat who will be presenting. Before I hand it over to him, just want to make you aware that if you want to sign up for the Google group, just go to konveyor.io, go to click forum, and then click on join group in the Google group. This way you get all the future invites, the future meetups. And you can also just chat a little bit more about any topics that you're interested in. You can propose any topics to us. And aside from that, as for today's meeting, if you have any questions, just put in the Q&A. We'll run some polls throughout the presentation. And from there, I think that's it. So, Andrea, it's all yours.
Thanks, Jonathan, and welcome, everyone. Welcome to the Konveyor community. Let me share my screen so I can start presenting the topic for today. Okay, here we go. I hope you can see my screen. So again, welcome to Konveyor. Today we are gonna discuss how and why tools make digital transformation easier. Digital transformation is a hard topic, and this requires lots of discussion actually. But still, let's focus on the tools and when you should use those tools to make your life easier in digital transformation projects. So I'm going to quickly introduce myself. Then we're going to discuss the risks of workload modernization, and then we will see how to mitigate the risks through the tools. So my name is Andrea Battaglia. I work for Red Hat, and I'm based in Italy, far south. So my region is Calabria, very close to Sicily. So in these times, hard time, I'm still kind of feeling safe because I'm very far from the rest of the world, considering it's southern Italy. So in Red Hat, my role is EMEA Technical Partner Development Manager, and I support and enable partners in EMEA about digital transformation and cloud native adoption and development. And this thanks to my previous experience in Red Hat. Now it's almost 6 years already. I've been for almost 3 years the technical head of services in Red Hat EMEA for digital transformation. So I was the guy speaking to customers about the business benefits of starting digital transformation projects, and then, of course, designing the target architecture for both the infrastructure and the workload. Now, the risks of workload modernizations, the modernization it's plenty of them, right? But I want to focus on a few, probably the one you will face the most, or you face the most when you run digital transformation projects and you open the Pandora's box. So risk number one, dealing with the Spring framework. Now, I understand most of the developers in the community, they are used to Spring framework and its cloud native version. I understand that's easy to use and the learning curve is kind of fast. Because you have the opportunity of using high-level APIs. But on the other hand, Spring Framework modules, they do not always adhere to the standards. It's tough to upgrade. It's kind of heavy because it requires more memory than other cloud-native frameworks already on the market, and Java frameworks, cloud-native Java frameworks already in the market, leads to over-engineering. I've seen this kind of situations many times, and it's overlapping. Now, I can tell you a story of one of the modernization projects I was in. Actually, I will focus on only specifically on one very big and extended modernization project for a customer I was taking care of in EMEA. This was a global organization, so a very large one in the energy sector. Now, consider how many projects you can find in an organization like this. Most of the times, we'll discuss it later, talking about the mitigation of the risks. Most of the time, 80%, around about 80% of the workload belongs to the same software architecture, meaning same kind of or same, exactly the same software vendor for the application / web server, and Spring Framework everywhere on top of that server, meaning Spring Framework will overlap the tool, the server you're going to use, and you will have to hammer the application on web server in order to make it work with Spring Framework. Red Hat products specifically, they support Spring Framework and the integration of Spring Framework, for example, with the enterprise application platform, but still, not each and every version of the Spring Framework is supported, so it's important to stick exactly to the versions supported, otherwise you lose the support. But in general, support or tested means someone else has run the tests for you, and you can kind of feel safe when you adopt and embrace that kind of integration. So we had in that digital transformation project to upgrade all the applications based on Spring Framework and running on top of the application server to a specific Spring Framework. So that led to a lot of complexity in terms of uncovering the handmade stuff, or uncovering where exactly there was a mix between the Spring Framework itself and the business logic. And last but not least, when the low-level APIs of the Spring Framework, they were used. So that's not a rare mistake. That's kind of common. No? People using the low-level or behind-the-scenes implementation of the standard APIs to use specific feature provided by a technology vendor, which shouldn't be used, actually, because as long as you stick to the APIs, so the specification of a framework, a server, whatever, it's going to be easy and less risky and less expensive to upgrade and modernize and move from one framework to another. As far as those frameworks, they are certified for those APIs. An example, classic example, is the application server. Second example, embedded home-cooked SDK and frameworks. Same digital transformation project. Now, please consider I had to deal with kind of 1,000 applications, more or less. So, in one of the core projects, so managing the transactions and deciding at runtime the price for the product of this energy company, I found some components that were specifically implemented by one single person. Here were the one-man show. Now, the problem is when you have this kind of components, and this kind of components mainly are embedded caches or specific framework that overlap BPMs, for example, JBPM, or overlap InfiniSpan or whatever kind of cache framework you are keen to use or you want to use in your application implementation. They are completely impossible to migrate or modernize because they are tightly coupled, usually with the framework they are based on. So removing them is the easiest part and is the smartest way of doing things when you approach, for example, the monolithic to microservices modernization. So this kind of home-cooked frameworks, they are definitely non-portable. They are hard to debug because keep in mind, developers or the owners of these components, they usually don't provide a proper documentation for many reasons or many purposes, which are off topic today. They're non-scalable because they are designed to be part of a monolithic application, so definitely not scalable at all. They lead to over-engineering, and actually extending these frameworks could be easy if the developer has done a good job, definitely. But still, they should not be used or be part of an enterprise application for producing customer revenue, simply because it's going to be the cost for maintenance is going to be higher than adopting and getting support from a standard, from a technology vendor, actually. So it's always a balance between the handmade component or the home-cooked frameworks and something you get on the enterprise, from the enterprise IT, because now you must be able to evaluate case by case. And my favorite, last but not least, embedded caches. Another core application was embedding two caches. One already there since a couple of years, and the other one since 3 months, so that was brand new. The developer, so this use case is tightly coupled to the previous one. So this guy just decompiled the Gemfire. Gemfire is a cache framework, right? It's an enterprise cache framework. So customers usually pay for the license. So he decompiled Gemfire components and changing the class names and the package names. He proposed that as a faster and more lightweight component embedded cache for the enterprise application, for one of the, again, the core applications. Usually monolithic application embedding cache frameworks, they load some data at startup, which is the worst thing you should do. Mainly when you have transactional applications, decoupling data from business logic is the core of your strategy, okay? And of course, nowadays, Kubernetes-based or container platforms, they help quite a lot, no? Yeah, so you can have, even in the same namespace, a cache application and an application composed by made up of several services, but definitely not embedding the cache within the enterprise application is the best choice. So, of course, the embedded caches, they're not scalable. Or when you have to scale up or down your application, you can't expect the embedded cache behaves accordingly to your expectations. Okay, caches, as you all know, definitely should be handled differently than an enterprise application or whatever kind of services running within a container or a pod. They're hard to upgrade. From time to time, embedded caches, they change their API. When caches in a monolithic application, they get started, usually before the application is ready to serve requests, embedded caches that get filled with data. And usually the official reason is, yeah, I don't want my application to reach out to the database or the data source every time I need some data. So I put the data within my application, so it's going to be super fast to retrieve them. But that's definitely not enough. It's not the proper reason. Leads, of course, to over-engineering and leads to memory leaks. So there is another reason, actually, talking about Java. Objects, too many objects in the Java memory space force the garbage collector to do more work. So it's not easy. It's not easy to manage them, and this is something you should avoid. So caches and cache framework, they are implemented to manage data perfectly, but not within an enterprise application, not within the business logic. So those two different intelligences, they shouldn't stay in the same memory space. That's it. And this is mainly what I consider the most risky situation you can get in. And trust me, 99.9% of the times you will face these issues. Now, I'm trying to not talk about Java most of the times. This is kind of this errors are kind of frequent even in the non-Java enterprise applications. Still, these are the risks you should avoid. Today, we are going to talk about the tools to migrate Java enterprise applications. So that's why I'm kind of referring to these use cases mainly. Now, having discussed or highlighted the main risks or the most common risks, let's see how to mitigate them. This methodology from Red Hat expertise and experience, and I'm one of the contributors to this, to the creation of this methodology, is called AMM, Application Modernization and Migration. Now, of course, the methodology involves the platform and the design of the target architecture from the infrastructure perspective, but still, when you approach applications, you should be able to design the target software architecture, to plan the modernization process, and then to deploy the modernization plan at scale. So iterating application group by application group. So in this situation here, the most important part of your job is the assessment phase. Assessment step, part of the design phase. Why? Because first of all, you have to be able to understand what's going on in the customer workload and so in the customer landscape, and then make decisions and apply the decisions to the plan. So the decisions you make, they depend on the assessment part. And of course, right after the assessment, we tend to prove and pilot. So prove means once you have identified the main risks and once you have defined the macro categories, the applications in the customer environment they belong to, you can pick up a use case. So pick up one or two applications, some integration components, and redesign or just slightly modify the applications in order to make them run smoothly within a container and to the target environment. Okay, because the target environment of a modernization process is always a containerized platform. It's always a Kubernetes-based platform. Now, proving and piloting means modify the applications and then deploy them into the target platform. That's not a POC. POC is something different. You are going to work on the customer use case. So the deliverable should be still an MVP, but bringing working functionalities as the application was before the modernization. Okay, and so that's the minimum viable product is having the same features, giving the same result, but on a different platform, and hopefully in a more scalable way. Now, the tool we're going to talk about helps with this kind of very hard task. Let's say you've got a certain number of binaries. So the customer workload is composite of several binaries running on top of application servers or deployed somewhere in the customer landscape. And then you want to run a deep analysis in them. What the tool does is rationalize the application set, so all the applications you want to run the analysis on top of, and then helps you making decisions on top of that outcome. So grouping the applications, these are Spring Boot 3 based application. These are Spring Framework version 3 based applications. These are applications with an embedded cache within, and these 200 small applications, they belong to a handmade or home-cooked SDK, and these applications are only meant to consume a JMS message, transform the message payload, and then produce a new message to a different queue. So categorizing them helps. So for each and every group, once you have successfully modernized one use case, you can create a blueprint out of that experience and expertise, and then reapply the same blueprint and template to the other application belonging to the same group. So that's fantastic. That makes you save lots of time. Together with that, it's important as well to pick up one of the strategies. So depending on the group, you just pick up a specific strategy. So we, during the last 7 years, let's say, identified several strategies. The most important and the ones you apply to this part, to the assessment, application assessment, are rehost. So you take the application as it is, the application running on a virtual machine or on directly on the operating system of the bare metal, and then you move it to the different platform. So applying just the minimal changes in order to make not even changes to the business logic, so to the source code, but just a couple of configuration files maybe or stuff like this. Replatform. So you move it to the next to the target platform, but still you have to apply some changes. Most of the time, when you want to migrate the application server underneath and modernize the application in order to make it run in a containerized environment, you want to switch from one application server to the other, and then, of course, apply the proper changes like configuration files and whatever it takes to make the application getting containerized and run in an orchestrated platform. Last but not least, the most difficult, actually, most of the time, is the refactor. Refactor means mainly monolithic application to microservices application. And that means cutting the application in pieces, splitting the business logic. This requires a very complex set of actions like trying to decouple service object or business objects from each other, extend them through, for example, the implementation of REST APIs and make the REST API talk to each other through standard protocols like HTTP rather than using in-memory interconnection between business objects. So that's more complex. So it's not always easy. Most of the time, due to the main risks we identified and discussed previously, that's not any immediate action that can be taken. So it's important to understand when to do that and how to do that. From time to time, it's possible as well to apply the modernization process into steps. So one step is moving to the container platform. Second step is splitting the application from monolithic to microservices. So the tool that helps with this is called, from the Red Hat perspective, Migration Toolkit for Application, aka MTA. And in the community area, you will probably know it. You probably know it as Windup. Windup is a very mature project. No? It's very old, and old is a positive thing. I had the chance personally to use it for many years. Actually, I knew that before I joined Red Hat 6 years ago. And I still believe this is the best tool on the market when it's about Java enterprise applications and Java applications in general. I've seen the tool improving significantly during the last years. And what the tool can do already is helping with the modern migration from one application server to another, to the Red Hat one. It helps quite well with the cloud readiness and containerization. So giving you some suggestions on the actions to be taken to make the application run as it is on a container platform. And it's pluggable. So considering one of the use case I mentioned you already, so the home-cooked frameworks and SDKs, you can limit the analysis the tool runs on the software to a specific set of packages, in order to identify what's going on there and what should be removed or changed in order to make the application run smoothly on a container. The tool is available on different platforms or can be used in different flavors, which is something I like a lot because it's actually modular. Now, the core can be connected to these different interfaces. So you've got the command interfaces, a web console, which is something we are going to use for our demo. Web console available, of course, on top of a web server. So available everywhere you can run a web server. We're going to see that on OpenShift today. As a plugin for your IDE, and last but not least, a Maven plugin. If you want to have a runtime feedback from the tool. Follow the Twitter account, have a look at the website. It's plenty of useful information, and we are gonna actually jump over a few steps. So the installation, which is already provided in terms of instruction set and videos, how to do videos by my colleague Miguel. So let's go a bit more into the enterprise availability of MTA and Windup. The latest version of MTA and Windup, so 5.1.0, is kind of provides kind of a better user experience, even in terms of installation and management, because Red Hat has and the Windup community, they have decided to provide operator support. So the installation and maintenance are automated now. The web UI, and trust me, I think from 7-8 years ago, the web UI has been improved dramatically. The web UI is very easy to use and is very nice, actually. Big news. The engineers, they successfully included a set of rules to help you moving from Spring Boot to Quarkus. And that's probably the most important news of this new version. In my partner ecosystem at EMEA level, trust me, lots of partners, they were waiting for this. So it's kind of important to give it a try. And another important part that I would not forget about is the support for migrating from Apache Camel 2 to Apache Camel 3, which is a big change in terms of APIs and functionalities. Now, please find at the bottom of this slide the links, download page, product documentation, and videos. It's an excellent starting point. The documentation is quite extended, so it's very interesting and easy to read and easy to reuse. Now, the tool, just to recap, and then we're going to see that during the lab, helps with some important parts. I will leave the full list to you for an offline read. What I want to focus on mainly during this demo and this talk is accelerate analysis. So this tool works in a fully automated flavor. What you just need to provide to the tool is the files for the enterprise applications, not the source code. It could work on the source code as well, definitely. But what is definitely enough for the tool is the deliverable, so the binary. tool will decompile the binary and will analyze the outcome of the decompile phase. So it's something that helps quite a lot. I believe you agree with me with the automated analysis. Then supporting effort estimation. This is kind of interesting because how can you estimate the effort? You've got the same tool running in several projects, or used in several digital transformation projects, and probably the estimation definitely the estimation doesn't vary depending on the skills of the developers involved in that modernization. It definitely depends on the and it's tightly coupled to the source code analysis. But the effort estimation, and this is given for experienced and non-experienced developers, depends on the skills of the team working on the digital transformation or that specific modernization project. And it's an excellent topic for the discussion. So trying to understand what are the risks, trying to identify the blockers, really, or the technical debt the team could have is the first step to take before you actually start with the digital transformation. Last but not least, the transformation process is definitely gets accelerated because the tool provides a lot of guidance, and sometimes you can get the solution to the problem. So if you get for example, a document, an XML descriptor for your applications, for the existing application server, and you want to migrate that XML, the toolkit helps in this case. Then we're going to see that during the lab. So the last slide of my presentation I want to share is about the roadmap. Why? Because now the engineering team and all the team looking after this fantastic tool is working on the merge between Pathfinder and MTA, so Windup. Other than providing additional functionalities and covering more frameworks and technologies and products, the most important thing is that you're going to have a tool which is going to be more and more complete. So it's going to help with the analysis automation. It's going to give you an overview of the app inventory, and it's going to give you an overview of the steps to take and understand the technical depth and what's needed to successfully complete the modernization project. Now with that, it's time for the lab. For the lab, I'm already here, so let me just zoom in. I'm already here with the implementation, with the installation. So let's step over that part and let's have a look at what you have after you have installed the Windup tool in your OpenShift platform. I installed MTA Windup using an operator. So whatever I had to do, and it's very well described and explained in the videos you can find on the download page of the tool, actually. You have an executor. You have a web UI, and you have the database that Windup uses to store all the information. So let's open the web UI, which is here. And let's have a look at the web interface. Now, guys, if there is something wrong with the screen sharing, or if you have or maybe I must zoom in a bit more, just let me know.
Andrea, please zoom a bit more, just a tiny bit more.
Thanks, Miguel.
That's it. Perfect.
Okay. Now, there are several options here. There is the project space where you can create, run, rerun projects and open the results of the analysis. A page dedicated to the analysis result. Here you can find the list of the application already analyzed and explained. And then you can add specific configuration to the analysis. Okay, so let's go through the demo for today. Let's create a project. And I'm just going to call the project, demo. Next. Now let's upload an application. I've got something ready here. So let's upload the binary, an enterprise application EAR extension that I'm keen to migrate to the target technology, which is JBoss EAP. Alternatively, instead of dragging and dropping the application here, you can give to Windup or MTA a server path. So in case you go and start with the application modernization and you want to download all the deliverables, all the binaries from your artifact repo and save them in a shared folder or in the folder that can be read by your container platform, that's actually easier, no? That dragging and dropping stuff using the web interface, but still. This is server path option is more for the analysis of a large number of applications when you have to even make the analysis process faster. Okay, so we've got the application here. Sorry, it's next button. What kind of modernization or what kind of analysis do we want to run on this application or this group of applications? Of course, I want to ask the application to run analysis on the migration to and JBoss Red Hat Enterprise Application Platform version 7. I want the tool to help me with the containerization of the application. Let's try let's make sure the application doesn't stick to any Microsoft specific path, because then it depends on the platform underneath as well, or the infrastructure underneath as well. And let's have a look at the OpenJDK modernization. Now, most of the time, Oracle JDK to OpenJDK is a piece of cake, but still it's important to have a tool run an automated analysis to make sure there are no risks in this case. Additional options are Spring Boot to Red Hat runtime, so from community Spring Boot to the supported Spring Boot available in the Red Hat runtimes product. Spring Boot to Quarkus applications, or Camel 2, Apache Camel 2 to Apache Camel version 3. In this case, we're going to run this run analysis on using these 4 sets of rules. Okay, let's go next. Now, the application has already identified the packages. The tool has already identified the packages within the application. Now, as you can see here, a few packages have been already included. So the tool identified that com.whatever, we get the full tree here, okay, are part of the business logic, and org.migration. On the other side, we can find org Apache, and org migration is already included, so it's gray. It's not selectable. Now, org Apache is the package structure of a third-party component that's been included in the application binary. We don't want to run analysis on those classes. And WebLogic as well. Now you can understand that someone has embedded some proprietary WebLogic modules, so from the technology vendor, aka the application server in this case vendor, within the application binary. And this is something you will have to get rid of if you want to migrate the application to a different application server. And that's something that should never be done, of course. No, we discussed already the importance of sticking to the APIs rather than using the implementation behind the scenes. Okay, so these are the packages I want to run my automated analysis on. As we stated already, there is the opportunity to apply custom rules. We don't need them now. You can apply different labels to this analysis or to the components of the application. We don't need them, and we don't need any at the moment. And here we are, final set of options. Now you can export directly. You can ask the tool to export the outcome of the analysis in CSV. You can disable tattletale, so disable part of the analysis. And there are some other components that could be run here. We're going to stick with the standard and default options. I kindly recommend you to try this at home using your own binaries and have a look at the potential of the application. Now, of course, this application we are using is an application created for demo purposes. But still, it's going to be enough to go through the report and have a look at that. So you can add additional class paths, put application names here, and add additional information that will help you in reading actually the outcome, the report, and sharing the information with stakeholders or colleagues. So let's start here. Let's review the project details and then save the project and run. Back in the analysis result webpage, so we are running the analysis. You will get here a kind of progress bar with the steps taken by and the actions taken by the tool. And in a few seconds, of course, we're going to get the results. This is kind of very cool because it's scalable in terms of running several actions concurrently. And as you can see, you've got the full list. Now you can throw away the project. You can have a look at the reports, but we are going to just click on this button here to have a look at the analysis and the report. So the report is easy to understand, and it starts with the applications list. Of course, we have one application for this project, analysis project, and we've got the total of the story points. Now, as we discussed already, story points, they really depend on the technical depth and the skills you have available in your modernization team or the technical team, but still, that's a reasonable number. Then it really depends on how you manage and use the story points during your daily meetings and the sprints. Now let's have a look at the application and see what's in there. An interesting overview of the incidents by category. Don't forget the tool helps you with the mandatory story points to spend in order to make the application run smoothly on the target platform. We added the containerization, we added the Oracle JDK to OpenJDK analysis, we added the application server migration. So it's the total story points are the sum of the story points needed to mitigate these 53 incidents and the risks. Optional, so this one action to be taken is a nice to have, and potential 38 incidents. So again, this tool doesn't give you a 100% assurance of success. Of course, there is always something custom and very deeply hidden actually within the application. The tool probably doesn't discover, And then it's up to you, your expertise and your experience, definitely. But you have 38 story points for the potential actions to be taken before you deploy the modernized application to a target platform. Cloud mandatory, because we asked for the cloud analysis as well, and cloud optional 0. Some information here, incidents, some 12 information we should have a look at. Now, the diagrams here and the charts are kind of interesting. They can be grouped by application. They can be shown and discussed for all the applications part of the analysis. But still, we are. It's kind of interesting to see how risky this modernization is from different perspectives. And let's have a look at the Java incidents by package. Look at this. There is WebLogic package in 27 places, so almost everywhere. Someone has decided to use the WebLogic libraries rather than the APIs. There are some Java naming that should be removed, and even worse, WebLogic naming, probably hard-coded strings. There is the use of Java RMI, which in Java Enterprise 7 is available again, but it's definitely discouraged. And WebLogic servlets. So let's have a look at the details here through the several panels we have available in the report. Of course, this is an HTML report, so this means that can be downloaded and added to your documentation, your analysis for colleagues and stakeholders. WebLogic proprietary logger, it's been found in 19 places. Okay, it's trivial change, so the level of the effort is 1 multiplied 19 incidents. It's just 19 story points, but still it's something that has to be done. Let's have a look in the detail. Look at that. For each and every incident, in this case, it's 1 per class, you get exactly the description. Okay. So WebLogic non-cuttable logger should be replaced with this logger. You want to know more? You have the link to the JDK logging documentation and to the JBoss logging documentation. Of course, you're going to stick with the JDK logging, which is the default one provided by the JDK, and that's, we can say it's an API standard, right? So you're going to stick with that. You can click on the link to the documentation and you can read the documentation, the official documentation for the JDK logger, which of course is non-readable here because I have to zoom in. So that's kind of simple. And it's fantastic to have this kind of support in terms of, I'm not sure, let me have a look at the documentation. Let me see how can I implement it properly in order to not fall into the same issue in a couple of years. Then going through a few more information here, application details, they include the packages under analysis. So as you can see, the tool reads the Maven descriptor, decompiles everything, and then shows you the outcome. And then can split the story points and the analysis by different components. We've got the EAR here. Additionally, you can find other components, so a jar probably containing standard business objects, and the Java web component, so the Word file. Additional components found here are these third-party modules we spotted already thanks to the pre-analysis phase, and the logger, log4j. Last but not least, we've got this migration support jar, which is another component available into the enterprise archive. Quickly, to give you some minutes for the Q&A part. Technologies. Let me zoom out a bit. So this matrix will describe and will highlight the technologies that have been found and analyzed into the applications. into the binaries you provided to the tool for the project. You've got a nice dependency graph, which is definitely something you want to have a clear overview of what's going on of the dependencies. In my previous experience, when I was working with direct customers for Red Hat, I've seen application binaries with a size of more than 150 megabytes. Plenty of third-party components, most of them not necessarily just left there by previous developers. So trust me, this tool helps quite a lot. Dependency, more explanation about the Maven coordinates and stuff like this. Remote services, this is kind of very important because you want to remove the remote services, for example, and expose the remote services through REST APIs rather than exposing RMI. Enterprise objects, Java enterprise objects. So a kind of full description can be found just clicking on the name, on the link. And server resources used. So JNDI locations here. So the application retrieves the JMS components using the initial context. Tattletale analysis, so something more specific about Java components and JBoss components. Ignored files, just a list of what hasn't been decompiled by the application. And last but not least, of course, about what's about the tool. Now, this kind of report, as you can see, is includes all the details you may need, and most importantly, don't forget about this issues tab. Here you have all the issues, and most of the time you have the resolution or kind of hints about how to solve them and how to mitigate these risks, plus the links to the official documentation. Now, Jonathan, I'm done with my presentation. If there is any question.
Yeah, so we actually didn't get any questions in, but Andrea, thank you so much for going over that. It's a very interesting tool. And I'll go over the poll results as for what we got right now. And before I do that, guys, if you can help us just better understand what exactly you need from these meetups and what your thoughts were on this specific meetup, please go to the short form survey. The link is in the chat. This helps us understand exactly what you're looking for and what pain points we can help you solve. So for the polls, Andrea, that you handed me over, so one question was, are you currently involved in digital transformation projects? We had one person that voted in, and they said they're currently working on one right now. As for which programming languages they mainly use for business, we had 4 people vote. 3 of them used Java, and then 1 of them used Python. And then for the last poll question, the question was, how do you analyze existing workloads? And 2 people voted Windup saved their life many times, and 1 person voted read source / decompiled code. Does that kind of fall in line with what your experience has been, Andrea?
That's a nice surprise. So most of the time, people, they are not used to Windup. So having 2 out of 3, so 67% of people saying, yes, Windup saved my life. Actually, what we kind of recommend to everyone is to try Windup at home and then get support from a professional. So from someone who contributed eventually or has a very high level of expertise on the tool, because understanding the report is the best way of designing, as we stated already, designing and running through a digital transformation process successfully. Failure is always possible. So the less information you have available, the higher is the risk of failure. And trust me, higher means 80 to 90%.
Yeah. No, that makes a lot of sense. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to present here, and we'll probably have you back on later on. And as for everyone else, let us know what you thought by filling out the survey, and also just feel free to follow us on Twitter and also on LinkedIn. We're trying to get this movement really going, so appreciate any help you guys can give us. All right, guys. Hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Ciao.
Bye.